All right, now that we have all of our board here, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So we're gonna start with our public hearing and then we will move on to just our regular meeting. I'm gonna turn it over to our superintendent.
So hi, thanks, everybody. Appreciate you coming tonight. Appreciate the attendance. We were going to the NPR, but then we were recalling previous years where there was like 4, 5, 6 people. And we can do it in the library. We can do it in the library. And but this is great. So thank you for being here. Hopefully, it's an informative evening for everybody. And couple things. You notice Pete Eckhoff is not in attendance tonight, and Jess will be filling in his stead, and she's going to be kind of reviewing and presenting the presentation this evening. Pete, it's safe to say you'd be comfortable in telling this. He retired recently from Coca-Cola, and they just picked tonight was a night that they were going to honor him and another colleague at an event. So that is why Pete Eckhoff could not be here this evening. He sent his regrets. We're in good hands with Miss Hinckley as we kind of get into this. After the public hearing, we're going to have a regular school board meeting with a few agenda topics. You're more than welcome to stay for that if you like. If not, that's fine too. And then one thing that I was hoping we could do this year is if we could hold our questions to the end of the presentation this evening, that will be, help us get through it with Jess and we'll have a conversation at the end. So great. So with that said,
Want to make a motion opening the public hearing?
Can I get a motion? All right, and second, all in favor? All right. All right, so let's jump right into it. So just a little bit here, sort of the story behind where the budget sits right now. Big driver is our health and dental insurance. Employer contribution rate increased 12.4 to 16.8% in health insurance and 5% in dental insurance. There was also an increase or decrease, excuse me, in our New Hampshire retirement employer contribution rate. It was reduced by 0.41% for teachers and 0.78% for non-teachers. We had one post employment benefit payout, so a retirement, which drives the budget a little bit. And then we increased our facilities technician from a 0.75 to a 1. And then we reduced staff by 1 paraprofessional. And then, as you'll see later in later slides, our contract with the MBEA expires in June of this year. So that is impacting as well. A few other things that are non-personnel related that are impacting our budget. We, as a board, have made an investment in literacy. So we are updating some of our program materials. We are replacing some furniture in here that's sort of at the end of its life so that our students are able to enjoy the space better. We are investing in some technology that's kind of gone by the wayside the last few years. So we will be investing in replacements for student and staff devices this year. Some facilities updates, utility costs, I'm sure everyone knows, are increasing, some service contracts, and then replacement and repairs of various equipment throughout the facility. There's been a net reduction in student services costs based on student need. So there's been a decrease in our special education transportation and then other related services costs. Risk management investment in reserve funds for facilities, special education, health, and dental insurance, technology, and post benefits and retirement. You'll see those as we get down to different warrant articles. Next slide, please. So we're just going to review the operating budget. Article 2 is our operating budget with a proposed amount of $6,734,473 and a default calculation of $6,566.70. This will be the the voting article, which we will post publicly so that everyone can review it. Next slide, please. So here is an overview of our budget and a comparison. So the FY 25 operating budget is a 1.4 increase. The FY 26 operating budget, excuse me, is a 1.4% increase, or 95,367 over the 25 adopted budget. The difference between the 25 operating budget and the fiscal year 26 default is a negative 1.1%, or negative 72,336. And the difference between the FY 26 default and the FY 26 proposed is 167,703, which represents a 2.5% increase. As a reminder, this calculation excludes any special warrant articles passed in FY 25, just to give a true comparison between the current year and the proposed operating budget. So these are our enrollment projections over the next 10 years. NESDEC, which provides the district with reports that display past, present, and projected enrollments. It's important for us to update enrollment projections every year to identify changes in enrollment patterns. This 10-year projections are designed to provide our district with yearly up-to-date enrollment information for planning and allocation of resources. NESDEC provides us with an annual enrollment projections in the fall and winter, as well as one that's updated in the spring. Over the next 3 years, you'll see grades K through 6 are expected to increase by 44 students as they move through our grades. And in FY 31, there's a peak projection of 293 students. Included in this slide is the NESDEC projected enrollment and the actual enrollment as of October 1st, and the NESDEC projected for FY 26. As you can see, the total number of students is pretty consistent, but the actual number of kindergartners versus the NESDEC projected shows an increase of 6 students. The number of teachers isn't expected to change, with 2 per grade level to maintain this current student-teacher ratios. This is our certified staffing. There are no changes proposed this year. We are staying with our current model for specials that was put in place 2 years ago. For non-certified staffing, we're projecting a decrease in the special ed paraprofessional based on student needs. And we are increasing the 0.75 facilities technician to a full-time position. So this is budget by category. You'll see it broken out by our major budget categories. The big increase this year is in technology to allow us to get back on track with device replacements for students and staff. Over the last few years, the budget's been cut here, and we are recommending resuming the device replacement cycle. In facilities, this budget includes utilities, maintenance costs, and repairs, and preventative maintenance costs. Most of the increase in this budget is to replace our outdoor AC compressor for room W7 that was pulled from the budget, as well as an increase in utilities. Administration is increased due primarily to the SAU apportionment and health insurance increases. In curriculum, you'll see this is where the salary and benefits for most staff are. For this year, the increases are primarily due to health and dental, as the wages for the MBEA are at status quo. Also included in this category are retirement payout benefits. Other increases in this category include a request for library and replacement furniture. This is part of a long-term plan to replace outdated and end-of-life furniture over multiple years. Other increases include materials and workbooks to implement a new literacy program next year and interactive display replacements in classrooms. Student services, which includes special education, is decreasing, as is transportation due to decreased need in the special ed area. All right, default calculation. So this slide just shows us how the default is calculated. Default budget is defined as The amount of the same appropriations in the operating budget from the previous year, reduced and increased by debt service, contracts, and other obligations previously incurred or mandated by law, and reduced by one-time expenditures contained in the operating budget and by salaries and benefits of positions that have been eliminated in the proposed budget. To calculate the default, the FY25 warrant articles are removed from the FY25 budget, and increase or decrease adjustments are applied. The increase for SAU apportionment is added. Food service, tuition to ASD, salaries, benefits, and student services costs, including transportation, are all decreases from the FY25 budget. This year, the total change from the FY25 budget to the FY26 default calculation is a negative 1.1%, or 72,336. All right, so proposed items at risk if our budget does not pass and we go to a default budget. The difference between the FY26 default calculation and the proposed budget include items that are not required to be included in the default and are potentially at risk of not being funded. These cost items include salary and benefit increases for non-union employees. Technology is primarily to support the technology plan for student and staff device replacements. Curriculum to fund the new literacy program, end-of-life library furniture, and interactive displays. Facilities includes utilities, maintenance, and repairs. And then you'll see a food service transfer that may be required from the general fund to cover shortfalls in the food service budget. Again, the total difference between the default and proposed is $167,703, or 2.5%. This just shows a visual representation of the composition of our budget. As expected, most of the budget is comprised of salaries and benefits and tuition to ASD. So this is a review of our revenue. So this is the total appropriation comparison. The first step in looking at revenue and tax impact is looking at the difference in the total appropriation from FY25 to FY26. The difference in the operating budgets from FY25 to FY26 is $95,367. There were 4 warrant articles that passed in FY25. One funded from new taxation for $30,000, which was for the contingency fund, and 3 warrant articles that were funded from the unassigned fund balance, totaling $90,000. For FY26, there are 4 warrant articles proposed to be funded from our unassigned fund balance, totaling $110,000. So the appropriation difference is $85,367. Next up is to review our anticipated revenue. So food service and grants are separate from the general fund, and the revenue just equals the projected expense. Other federal, state, and local include Medicaid revenue, special ed aid, interest income, tuition, and any local grants like the Dayland Library grants. The revenue from fiscal year 25 unassigned fund balance to fund the warrant articles is included, as well as the projected amount to offset the tax rate in FY26. All right, so finally, to determine the tax rate impact, we compare the total appropriation amounts and reduce that by the revenue as calculated in the previous slide, and then reduce that by the state adequacy aid and the statewide property tax. The result is an increased tax effort of $31,159, or 0.06 on 1,000 increased tax impact from FY25 to FY26. There was a recent reevaluation of property for the town of Mont Vernon that resulted in a significant increase, which means the tax rate and therefore impact is lower. However, individual property values would have increased as well, affecting tax amounts to be paid by property owners. So we renegotiated our MVEA collective bargaining agreement this year, and I'm going to pass this down to Andrew Stopinger, who was part of the committee to do this year.
Thank you. So after several months of negotiations, the MVEA and the board came to an agreement on the bargaining agreement. The goals of the board and the MVA were all accomplished. So we both agreed that we wanted to attract and retain teachers, especially those early in their career. So we improved the salary schedule for teachers early in their career to kind of match up with where we would be at if we stayed with inflation since 2006. This was a substantial increase in a lot of the schedule, but very few teachers here at the school. So it didn't really impact any of our any of the totals. We added some incentives for longevity for the teachers who have been here for a very long time. We'd like to keep them. It's very important to us. And we decided on a 3-year agreement. We were going back and forth between trying to get something longer in place and eventually settled that we wanted to really sync a lot of things up with the other schools in the district. The increase in instructional time. Every moment that teachers can spend teaching students is a benefit to the students. So we negotiated additional days of school, additional student days. And we reduced the number of early release days to 4, I believe. Yes, from 7 to 4. And these are just going to turn directly into increased instructional time with children. We wanted to help our teachers focus more on their own development as well. So we went back and forth on a few different ideas. We settled on increasing number of professional development days for them. This kind of also matches up with the reduced early release days. So some of it is just moving from, that professional development from an early release day to a teacher day. And made some other small changes that are going to really help teachers who need professional development and need attention from the leadership here at the school to be able to get that without fear of repercussions, right? Reaching out for help is something that they should be able to do. It benefits all of our students for them to get that help. And one other thing we changed that's going to have an impact, hopefully in future years, is we had a quirk with the health insurance that it was locked in based off of the most expensive plan. And we just flattened it out. So now we are the cost that we cover is a percentage per plan. So it won't just magically go up in the future based on the most expensive plan going up in price. If the cheaper plans stay cheap, we will continue to pay the same percentage for them. And the estimated tax impact is listed there. Let's go to the next slide here. So this agreement is for 3 years. So all the language changes and the revised salary schedule reflect in a cost for year 1 of $104,984. For year 2 is $106,803. For year 3, it's $105,200. The article asks the voters to approve each year of the contract as well as the raise and appropriate the amount for the first year of the contract will be added to the operating budget. So this is why the budget itself doesn't have much of an increase this year. It's because the normal increase that was on the bargaining agreement is in a separate article. All right. In case we do not pass Article 3, we would still like an opportunity to be able to reach agreement with the teachers and get this contract into place. The board feels it's very important to us that all of the other items in the agreement that are not the monetary ones also get into place. They lock a lot of things into place for us. They fix some wording. So this article allows for a special meeting should the collective bargaining agreement not pass. What this does, if it doesn't pass, the school board could work with the MVEA to renegotiate the cost items only of the contract and bring it back to the voters. If this doesn't pass, the option would not exist without going to Superior Court, or we would have to wait until the following year, and the teachers would go without a raise.
All right, thank you, Mr. Stovinger. All right, moving along to our special warrant articles. So this one should be familiar to many of you. So our property maintenance fund, this warrant article 5 is to add $50,000 to the property maintenance fund from the unassigned fund balance if available. We do this yearly in order to maintain our property with as minimal tax impact as possible. So next slide, please, Steve. Long-term facilities funding plan. So this slide shows the long-term capital needs plan and includes projects and proposed funding plan through FY32. There are a number of smaller projects planned, including tree removal and door replacements, as well as larger projects, including the boiler and pump replacements, a fire alarm system upgrade, a water system upgrade, and HVAC unit replacements. There are other projects that are to be reviewed as well, including ductwork, HVAC units, roofing, siding, generator, an ADA, playground access, doors, crack, fill, and seal work. The goal of this plan is to always maintain at least 100,000 in case of an emergency issue. This plan may also change depending on the results of our facilities committee recommendation for changes to the school. The warrant article is for 50,000 to be funded from the unassigned fund balance. Next slide, please. Article 6 is our special education fund. We are proposing to add 25,000 to the special education fund from the unassigned fund balance if available. Next slide, please. So the special education fund was established in 2016 and we updated the name in 2024. There's currently $71,000 in that fund. The recommended balance goal is 200,000 to cover any unanticipated expenses. The warrant article is for 25,000 to be funded from the unassigned fund balance. Article 7 is our health and dental insurance fund. This warrant article would add $10,000 to this fund from the unassigned fund balance. So this fund was established in 2023 for the purpose of covering unanticipated health and dental insurance expenses if needed. The current balance of the fund is 26,000 and the balance goal is to be able to fund a family plan, which is a little over $34,000. The warrant article is for $10,000 to be funded from the unassigned fund balance. So warrant article 8 is to add $10,000 to the technology fund from the unassigned fund balance if available. So the technology fund was established last year to support the technology needs of our school district. The purpose is to save for larger infrastructure costs for items such as telecommunications, network switches, access points, and WAN costs. The warrant article is for $10,000 to be funded from the unassigned fund balance. So this chart shows the balance of the fund and the proposed contributions and projects over the next few years. The main project is the Extreme Wireless Access Point Upgrade project that is occurring across all districts. And there is a planned replacement to the current phone systems in the near future. So warrant article 9 is to establish a post-employment retirement benefits expendable trust fund and to appropriate $15,000 to the fund from the unassigned fund balance if available. So this is a new fund for post-employment benefits for retirement. Employees accrue this benefit and they are payable upon retirement. The district can include these payables as they become known in the budget and or can save for them via trust funds to help to reduce the budget variability. The recommendation is to establish this fund with a contribution of $15,000 from the assigned fund balance with an eventual balance goal of $50,000. Oh, that was the slide I just reviewed. Sorry, Steve.
That's my fault.
No, I didn't tell you to go. All right. Well, and then this is just a summary of all of the warrant articles that we just reviewed, including the operating budget with the default calculations. So the proposed operating budget is $6,744,473. The default budget would be $6,566,770. The collective bargaining agreement with MBEA is $104,984. The Article 4 would be a special meeting, should the CBA be defeated, that has no monetary value. Article 5 is a property maintenance fund, which we yearly ask to fund that at 50,000. Article 6 is our special education fund, which we are asking to fund at 25,000. Article 7, health and dental insurance fund, which we are asking to fund at 10,000. Article 8, the technology fund, we are asking to fund at 10,000. And then Article 9 is the post-employment benefits retirement fund, which we are asking to fund at 15,000. And then just these are our next steps in the budget process. So tonight is our public hearing. The next step is 22525, not 24. So that will be our deliberative session, and then voting takes place on March 11th. And that is that.
And yeah, good, just, there's a final slide, just. It gives a little more information on the,
You might have to hit refresh.
No, it's me.
And then, oh, it's not up there, but the final slide is, we'll go to questions, should anyone have them. Just remember to please state your name, and address for the record. And we'll give each speaker 3 minutes, and a little more out there we go. Deliberative session will be here on February 5th at 6 p.m. And then district voting is 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. here in our MPR.
Magic. Do you want to go, let me leave this slide up so we can go questions article by article?
Yep. Open the floor to any questions. Eileen, I know you have some.
Oh, absolutely. I was just trying to decide where to start. All right. Okay, Eileen Neighbor, 14 Beach Hill Road. I guess the first will be SAU Management Services. Now, I don't know, I was making notes as you went through the slides, but that isn't.
it was only on the high
Page
chart.
2 of the MS 26.
Yeah, I know, I got it on my
The SAU apportionment, is that what you're asking about?
SAU Management Services, which one up,
Under appropriate.
yes.
It's not, I don't think it's a slide.
Maybe start with slide 1, and if no one has questions, then go to slide 2, and then go to slide 3 and
All
6.
right,
Slides aren't numbered. Can we number them next time?
Excellent, I noticed that,
I had to write a word.
I did too, and I don't know.
rather than jumping.
all right,
back
we
and
can start at the beginning. So the first couple are just the story of our budget. Is this where you want to start, Eileen?
I wanna keep going.
This is the first one. Oh, next one, sorry. One more up,
Keep going.
one more, yeah. Oh, there we go.
All right, we can start there,
Right here,
if you like. Back up one.
more.
Thank you.
Okay, so
So
that's,
there's the operating budget,
okay, so I have no questions.
okay?
Oh, wait, I do.
Okay.
All right.
You've got them in order.
My name is Ann Dodd. I live at 36 Mason Road in Mont Vernon. And I want to know how much of the unassigned fund balance was left after paying for all of the deductions for those programs that were identified.
That is projected for next year or
No.
last year?
How much money is left after you spent the money for those articles?
Oh, we won't know until July, right? Doesn't our fiscal year end
So
July
are you
1st.
talking about
Last
this
budget
year?
season.
Fiscal year
Or-
25.
You talking about the current budget or last year's budget?
The current, the one we're operating under right now.
We don't know how much will be left. until
What's
the end.
projected?
So you haven't spent any of the money on those items?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
There were 4 articles last year that were to be funded by the unassigned fund balance.
Yes.
So how much of it would be left over if we applied all of it?
So we say there wasn't any withdrawals out of the benefits one. Have we withdrawn out of the maintenance trust so far this year to do projects?
I don't think that's what she's asking.
So
So after we, like,
If
we fund all of the like
The
all of
warrant
our
articles.
warrant
Why don't we go
articles.
to slide 17? So there's, are you talking about,
So.
So if we funded all of the warrant articles that
How much
we
money is
had
left?
last year, how much is left?
left.
Yeah.
Right.
From the unassigned fund balance?
And so what I wanna know is that leftover money in your last year's budget? So that you're calculating it going forward. If there's money left over,
So
it
if you
should
look
go, it should go back.
Oh, so we're projecting
Yes.
$108,000 to go back to the
We're-
town for this year, at the end of this year.
Okay, so if there's
No.
$150,000 left at whatever year, I don't care what year
Right,
we talk about, what happens to the money that's left over?
Reduces the tax rate. So right there, we're projecting 90,000
That's for
for
next
this,
year.
for next
I
year.
don't care what year.
Yeah.
Okay,
If you have $100,000 left over, after you take care of all of the stuff that we voted on, what happens to that money?
it
That's
goes
left
back-
over.
It goes back to the taxpayer.
It goes
It-
back the following year to offset the following year's tax rate, tax impact.
So we never see that number.
it just reduces
It
how much more.
reduces
we
your
have.
tax rate.
We never see that.
It reduces your tax rate.
I understand it reduces
don't
the rate,
get-
but
So you don't-
we never see what it is.
the exact number,
It's here.
it's in the audit.
And it's here.
It's in one of these.
Okay,
So $108,608 went to offset the tax rate for the current year. $108,000 was left over at the end of last year, and $108,608 offset your tax rate for the current year that you are in right now.
okay,
So you do see the number, that's the number.
so that's
Yeah.
the only place I see the number, no, is,
That is the number.
okay. And so when you start your work for next year, do you start from scratch or do you start from where you were before?
We have to start from scratch. That's,
Okay, thanks.
Zero base budget.
yeah,
Great,
that's what we're required to do.
thank you, we can go back. Sorry.
That's what we're here for.
Darlene, you want me to start with that one, executive summary, or keep going?
I think keep going. She said there were no questions.
Staffing, you okay?
So you're back at at Article
Two, yeah.
1.
Article 2.
Are your projections for 2031 based on the baby boom during COVID?
Yes,
Okay.
that was what was outlined for us.
I actually have a question about staffing. If you don't mind. Eileen, did you have a question?
I was sort of going, not on this, staffing level, no.
Okay. Autumn Verdina, 4 Pinkham Avenue. I worked at the SAU for many years in special ed and have been in this school subbing. And it concerns me that we are reducing the para need. I don't know if kids are moving out that had a dedicated para. But when I spend time in the school and when I've seen the numbers coming from the SAU, special ed numbers are only ticking up. And I know that these teachers work really, really hard in the school, and I don't know if reducing a para is going to give them the support that they need in the classroom to be effective. Because I've subbed in some of these classrooms and there's sometimes where it's difficult and it's disruptive to the children that don't need the special needs. So it concerns me that you're reducing a para position. So can you explain why that decision was made and what financial impact that has on the budget? Because I'm wondering if it's like 1 cent more. is it more important to have that staff and support for our teachers and their fellow students than reducing our tax rate by a penny?
So, Dr. Jennings, part of her role is to review every single, with staff here, every single IEP and determine what services require a paraprofessional is considered a more restrictive service. And our job is to make sure it's the least restrictive service possible. And so, yes, so it is possible, to have an uptick in special ed needs, but not require the restriction of a paraprofessional. So, yeah, so you were
What about
exactly.
classroom parents that just support the need of the classroom, even though this particular student doesn't need it.
So all the classroom pairs have to be connected, driven by a special education need through an IEP. So we don't have any more general classroom pairs who do that. It all is all connected to a service.
Okay.
And it is a full analysis by Dr. Jennings. But to your point, if a couple of things, so if there's someone who moves in, or if there's kids that develop, that the referral goes back and we have to revise, that is why we are growing the special education trust. So the rule in budgeting is you budget what you know, and you have reserves for the unanticipated. So our hope is to rebuild. That's why the $25,000 in that fund is important to get up to 200 to make sure we can budget what we know. But yes, our Director of Student Services, Tom, and people here are comfortable with the amount of services where we are for that special education paraprofessional.
So if we were in the case of needing an additional one for needs of students, the reserve could be used for that salary of that additional.
That is correct. Yep, it requires we would have a public hearing.
Mhm.
And the board would support it. So we do that all completely transparently
Mhm.
to make sure we come and we have to be care, we obviously care about confidentiality of that issue.
Of course.
But we would talk about the need and that transfer in a public hearing, then we would transfer if we need it.
Okay.
And the amount. And as you know, this is driven by IDEA, this is all federal. And so, but we would also, we want to make sure. That salary, there is enough for that, so we're trying to build it up. What you want to build up that fund for is unanticipated out of district placement.
Mhm.
There was about an hour from here, a district who had 2 youngsters move in, had to go to a deficit appropriation because they didn't have enough. So we want to build it up to 200, which is about, as you know, out of district placement.
Right.
But in the meantime, we do have enough to cover a paraprofessional salary benefits.
Okay, thank you.
Want to keep going?
Yeah.
Keep going.
Okay, administration, no, that administration is in the building, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I'm waiting for the SAU.
There's the SAU apportionment right there.
Okay, what is causing that to grow, go up? What, almost, 4?
36,000.
Yeah, well, I'm looking, that is only the increase. So why is our apportionment going higher? And how is our apportionment, what is our apportionment based on also?
Sure. So this is from the SEU budget that was reviewed earlier in this year and was passed by the SEU board at their public hearing in November.
Right.
So there's a proposed budget. The budget is offset by some small amounts of revenue to arrive at the SAU budget to be apportioned, which for this year is about 3.2 million. And then there's an apportionment formula that's applied that's based on average daily membership as well as equalized valuation. So the Mont Vernon apportionment, what the Mont Vernon School District pays for all of the services from the SAU is 10.35% of that budget.
And what has caused it to go up? This amount,
The SAU budget,
yes. Were any, I guess my real question is it only salary increases? Is it increase in staff? Or is it shifting of items that were previously done locally into the SAU office?
it was primarily health and dental insurance.
Okay.
That was the main driver of the SAU budget
Thank
increase.
you.
No, there isn't any staffing increases,
Okay,
and there is no shifting of the local to the SAU.
Can you go back one slide?
Sure can.
Bonnie Angeles, 3 Bakers Way, the technology change is pretty significant, and during your presentation, you said that you're catching up and that there is some kind of device replacement schedule. Is that something that is public information, or what are we catching up from? How did we get so far behind?
For the last 2 years to control costs, we squeezed out more life out of the student and faculty laptops.
Okay, how old are they?
They range anywhere from 5 to 9 years old, depending on the device.
For example, we're using computers from 2008 at the library, and we're squeaking them out for one more year. So like, I'm expecting squeaky to mean not the best stuff, but and I'm assuming that we did a group purchase.
We do.
So if we were not catching up and Wilkins was catching up, would we all be doing it at the same time still? Like, is there an opportunity for us to do our own catch up and not be part of a group order, or is it to everyone's benefit to be catching up at the same time?
So we do we get a SAU wide bid. And so we get the benefits, even if we're doing smaller numbers here, we get the benefit of an SAU wide bid with a vendor. So that's like, there's a vendor like Wally, well, I don't know if you use it, but we will get a bid for the SAU, so they give us a cheaper price each.
Okay, so we're gonna see a technology upgrade for the children, hooray. Technology, and what devices are we talking about?
I've got those numbers right here. There's 35 student devices and 8 staff devices. That comes to roughly, if you made them all even, which they aren't, because the staff ones are more expensive, that's about $760 per device with the software. Yeah, it's actually a pretty decent price. I looked at that was the part of what I looked at and part of the budget committee. And if you saw the laptops that the students carried home, my son was a 6th grader last year, they were almost useless. So, fortunately, it's difficult, I know the ones at the library last a little bit longer because they're maintained by people who care for them versus students that may not. So, it makes a shorter lifespan especially for the student devices.
Okay, so we'll see a flat line for like 5 years on this, or is this?
So we have, we do it in pieces. So this is, as we said, about 30, there's more than 35 kids in the school. So we want to do a cycle and we want to build resilience and grit, but probably not with devices that aren't working.
Can I ask a question about the technology? Corinne Adams, 15 Mason Road. Is the technology in this part of the budget including like assistive devices for children in special education, or is that directly from special education budget?
That would be in special education.
Okay, good to know.
So to answer your question, I think that what I'm reading from a question that I asked, there are 29 staff devices in their 5th year and 111 student devices in their 5th year. So we shouldn't expect this to be flat going forward. We should expect us still to be catching up, trying to get those 5-year devices retired. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a lot of money compared, you know what I mean? But
Yeah, no, it makes sense, and that's why I
I
asked the
understand the
question.
need, I just wanna see the, the schedule.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The schedule should be part of the long-term technology plan.
Mhm.
And we can make sure that it's on the website and we will make sure that it's sent out every year, yearly around the end of February, the long-term planning schedule. And we'll make sure we get that out.
Yeah, it's part of the budget file as well on the cover page. If anyone's interested, all of the long-term plans are linked to that as well. And they're also on the website.
So is it Larry?
Yes.
So, and help me out here, it's not always because of the condition of the laptop themselves that may require change out. Some of it, and you can fill me in on this, and maybe some individuals here may find it helpful. Sometimes the software that you're running may not be able to run on the current version of laptop you're on. So it's not always specifically the condition of the hardware, it's always what's running on it. Like I have a laptop at home and I have a desktop. My desktop is about 12 years old. I can't run the stuff from my laptop that's on the desktop because the
Same.
desktop can't
Right.
handle it. It just can't. So it's not always just the swapping because of the hardware, because of the age. It's just, I do it with my business as well. Microsoft may change, and we have to upgrade our licenses, and guess what? Our laptop's only 3 years old, I gotta go out and change everybody's laptops. So it's not, you can't only just look at it from the condition of the laptop. Laptop can look great, it's just what they're running here may not effectively apply.
Right, and it's a significant chunk of money.
Right,
That's
right.
what I'm
Oh,
saying,
yeah,
like, if it's the same as food, if it's the same as, we gotta understand that
Oh, yeah.
that is,
exactly.
a priority.
So I have one facilities question. When I went to the meeting about facilities, I suggested that there were local Mont Vernon people who might be afforded an opportunity to bid on some things. Were those opportunities afforded to them?
Uh,
I don't think.
I don't think we have had put anything out to bid at this point, Amy,
No.
since that meeting in, but it was noted and we did have a conversation about it internally. And I think as Roger makes plans for spring or summer work on this facility inside or out, and I expect him to
Well,
open it up.
in this case, it was for the pest management system, which must be in that budget. For the
What did you say it was for, Amy?
Pest,
Best man.
pest control.
Yeah. So we'll follow up with Roger on that, but I don't think he put it out yet.
I think it's,
So where did that number come
I think
from?
it's JP Pest.
Where did that number come from? Last year or
Which number?
the numbers that are in your facilities budget?
Well, that's what we're projecting that we're gonna need to run the facility. And so when the time comes during the next fiscal year, we'll use the money that we're budgeting to go pay for the vendors to come in and do the work.
It makes sense for timing. So this budget won't start until July 1st,
Okay,
and you don't really need pest removal until it's not winter.
oh, yes.
Oh, my God.
All right, so I care about different pests.
It's this contract you're operating under now, but I just want to make sure that you could spit the Monadnock pest
Pest, yeah.
control, and JP Pest is now a national firm. So I asked at that meeting that.
Take a look. Thank you.
He does the whole. It should be.
Yeah.
Yes,
Then
I just want to make sure that we
I love it.
remember that Mont Vernon is part of this SAU, and we need to make sure we're including people who make their living
Love it.
in what we do.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next one, you okay? Questions about the default? You okay?
No.
Questions about how we would adjust to a default?
I have a question on this financials again. So I see your buckets here and. It breaks my heart to think that there would be an adjustment in just these lines. Is there no other place to pull money from?
So the default is a budget number. The board has full discretion to move funds around, but these are what we would have to cover by reducing other expenses if we decided to fund these in the default. This is what the regulation about the default would not carry, but the board could decide to carry salary and benefit adjustments and reduce from other places in the budget. But these are not carried due to the regulation of what goes into the default. This is what would drop out unless the board decides to move funds from other areas in.
Okay, so
And
it
it's
feels
really
like,
just the amount that moves out. It's not necessarily the items, as Steve said. The default is just a calculation. It's just a bottom line number. And the board would have to look to fund any of these items that they would want to fund from something else. So that's why these are called items at risk.
okay, because it feels like an emotional slide. That is persuading me to vote for your budget.
You said it's
If
just-
you told me that executive
It's a-
administrator cost would be reduced by $167,000, I wouldn't feel so bad, maybe, right? Like,
It's a factual slide. This is what the statute
but you
about,
just said it might not come out of these buckets.
but so
Some of these
these,
decisions.
this is what's not funded through the default. But yes, so that's what's at risk
Right.
unless the board decides to make a change within the budget to fund.
Right, and would the board, is this your priority of what you would?
So these are just, no
hypothetical-
priorities, hypotheticals, right? So if we go to a default budget, these are items that are not funded. in a default budget. So we would have to, if we want to fund these, we would have to find money in other places
Mhm.
to be able to fund these. So it's just a number slide showing what is not covered in a default. So these are in our proposed budget, but legally we cannot put these in our default budget.
Okay, thank you.
So, couple things that I just need to. You're giving us too much credit. Too much credit. We live in the land of facts, right? And we are heavily regulated. And we are very thoughtful and honest and transparent. And Amy, Steve, and Tom have heard me say that. We are not going to do anything else but then be factual and transparent. The other piece that as the SAU, we will always provide solutions and options based on our experiences in our guiding the school. And then at the end of the day, the board has influence over choosing what they want to do, and then the voters ultimately get to decide what they want to support. And so always keep those things in mind. And I've said, this is the third meeting of public hearing, and I've sat in with various audiences and had different questions where people are insinuating or suggesting that we are not being as transparent or honest with our work. And I want people to know that we are providing solutions and, guidance on that. And we're going to answer every question as honestly as possible. And I will tell you, we are very aware of at Mount Vernon and in the situation here. And we try to be very mindful as we provide options to run a very effective school, trying to keep it as fiscally appropriate and responsible while we are heavily regulated and have to follow quite a bit of rules. And I always want to keep that in mind. And we're extremely mindful of that.
I appreciate that. It's a
So-
challenge. The town has been hit very hard.
I
by the
am,
appropriation and the increase, the taxes, and they're looking at all budget lines, and with SB2, it's difficult, because it doesn't feel like we're going line by line, it feels like there's buckets, it's a bottom line budget after we vote for it, and money is spent responsibly by the school board. So to ask the questions, now is the only opportunity.
no,
Yeah, it's tonight, and then it's gonna be deliberative where we reduce or we don't, so like tonight is the night, and I'm not suggesting or implying that you're doing anything to people. I'm just asking, because these slides go by quickly, so we're pumping the brakes and taking a good look, and you have to figure out.
Love it, thank you.
And so the starting point for the default budget, can we go back to that slide?
That one?
I see we took out the special warrant article, but what about the money that is left over? As your starting point? If there's another 108 or whatever you said,
The unassigned balance.
The 108 was from FY 24.
okay. But
We're
does the
projecting-
default budget start with those unexpended monies?
It starts with the adopted budget.
So that slush money is in there. In the starting point.
But you don't know you
That
have it
was, it
until the end of
offset
the
your,
year.
it offset your taxes for this year.
It's been used. in
But
essence.
it's
But
already
this-
been used. It
yeah.
doesn't have anything to do with the adopted budget.
But the starting point for the default budget includes monies that were voted on last year.
No,
So
No, that goes to zero.
damn, call me up tomorrow.
Oh.
I think I can help.
Everybody okay on that one? Everybody okay on that one? That's, you can see what it says. Alright. Everybody okay?
Yep.
Already, we talked about this one?
What were the grants again?
Those are the titles, those are federal title grants, other small ones. Usually Title I, Title II, Title IV, we get REAP here as well, we get a rural grant.
Is there any opportunity to increase that line, and how would we do that?
The federal grants, actually, we have been projected that they would decrease. Stay the same here, but in the future because of the change. But these are entitlements, these are based on free reduced lunch and things like that. So these aren't competitive grants. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. They're entitlement grants.
They're allocations. We don't apply for them.
Tom Driscoll, Sean Drive. I just have a quick question, and I see that you've got a plan for the warrant articles to cover from the unreserved fund balance, but how do you, if you didn't have enough to cover it, how do you determine which funds get how much?
Say that again for me?
So you have
that's
multiple
great.
funds. that you're
It's a
trying
great
to
question.
fund.
Yeah.
What?
It's a great question. So like, how did we determine the order of the warrants?
So you only had 60K left at the end. How do you determine which warrants get the money? And
Oh, it's the order of the printed on the warrant.
It is.
Yeah, we
Yep.
start at the top and
We have
Run
first
down.
one, and if once it runs out, it doesn't
Okay.
fill the
So
bucket. So,
so the order is important.
Yeah. and the board, makes that based on their priority.
Okay.
We actually voted on the order and we put some thought into consideration into what order they would go into.
Okay.
Thank you. So 6 cent tax increase.
Why are we getting less money from the statewide property tax?
It's used to offset the appropriation.
That's a good question.
So the swept is raised here, stays here. So the formula for the swept slightly has gone down based on, so it's the valuation of non-utility property as well as the number of students. And so there, and the issue of the students, you get more aid for free reduced lunch. So it could be changed in all those. It's the differentiated aid combined with this what stays here, and
Okay,
that's funny. Everybody okay?
yes,
NVEA, just before we get started, I want to thank and appreciate Pete and Andrew for their work. So for the professional development, so we decided on 2 additional student days as opposed to a PD day and a regular PD, if you remember, Andrew went down. But the PD days that are important in this contract are for any teacher new to the district now, or is included a week, 4 days, almost a whole week of induction to learn some of the drivers of the school, our responsive classroom, our math program, and our literacy program. So when someone comes in, we have 4 days to train them on the Mount Vernon way, the village school way, which we think is really valuable. And I really appreciate the board's effort on trying to increase instructional time. And so it really is, there's some good stuff here.
that's my question. Increased instructional time, are we on, our time in school is based on clock hours, correct? Not 180 days.
So, so here's how it works. To meet the state standard,
Right,
it is the number of hours.
correct.
But within the CBA, we control the teacher's number of days.
But when you say 2 additions, so what is the minimum number of student hours to be a full year in the Mount Vernon school?
Based on the state requirement or the contract they just approved.
State requirement,
The state requirement is 945
pick a number,
9:45.
for elementary.
945. So if you're gonna add, so instead of stopping at 9:45, you're gonna add 2 additional student days. So you're gonna add roughly 12 hours.
That is correct.
So you're gonna be in school over 1,000. Make it easy. Okay. And then some of that is going to be, in addition to that, are you making the half days full days?
Yes.
And is, well, maybe it doesn't belong here, but is that being done supervisory union wide?
No.
Okay,
So there's 3 different, one, the high school loves early release days. The Mount Vernon School and the Amherst Middle School align for their early release days. But that's how Hegan is different.
They don't need babysitters.
And you're right,
Well,
it's more
very
palatable
true.
for families to have early release at the secondary than it is elementary because the impact on the families, and you are absolutely correct.
thank you.
Everybody okay?
So Article 3, I wanted to tell people who may not have lived here as long as I have, that one year there were 2 things on the warrant, and one was replacing windows. and one was increasing staff salaries. The town voted for windows and we got a union. We never had a union until that window vote. It was the most short-sighted thing I ever heard.
Yeah, how long ago was that, if you don't mind?
Oh, Eileen, help me. It has to be 15, 20 years.
Longer than that.
It's the year, it's the year the union was started.
Yeah, I was
That's how
trying,
you
I don't
know.
know what, I was just trying to,
About that.
you have to go PLRB. and stuff.
Damon, I think.
Oh,
Damon Russell?
Hmm,
Anyway.
I don't know. Might have been Rick, I don't know, but the year the union started was in reaction to that window vote.
Yep.
So if you can convince your neighbors that this is necessary, please do. The union we have right now seems to be a reasonable group of people that work with us. We don't want to change union.
Everybody okay? Any other questions about the agreement?
I'd like to make one comment here. One of the things that they did is boost the starting teacher pay. The starting teacher pay in this school district is just at the poverty line. So if someone gets a college degree and decides to come here to teach your kids and shows up here, they're basically starting at the poverty line. We
They have to
don't,
live with their parents.
yeah,
And we need to bring them lunch.
yeah. So we don't want to set a situation up like what they have in Oklahoma where they can't find new teachers because they're not paying them enough to live. So there's still, even with the increase, it's not like our teachers are living palatially.
And I think what people have to keep in mind is when they go out and negotiate this, there's a comparison done against other districts.
Yeah.
So it is competitive. And again, when you look at the first year, 104,000 compared to $6.5 million budget, that's 1.5%. That's a 1.5% increase over the current budgets being proposed. It's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of money.
And we compare ourselves to other like districts, so these comparisons are not against towns like Amherst, because it's a more even comparison.
Well done, well done. I want to compliment you.
The interesting part is it's an estimated increase. It's not necessarily the actual increase. If there is a retirement, for example, that teacher will most likely be replaced with someone new to the profession. So it will end up being cheaper if we can attract someone newer.
Love your language, my friend.
What is the starting salary?
And this, actually, want me to show you, want to see the salary schedule? Eileen, you wanted me to show the salary schedule, if I remember correctly.
Public now, right?
It is, I'm happy to, I got it right here. Bad. I have to stop share. Let's get 45, and then share is right there. So this is the new salary. I'm gonna boost it up so you can see that. So this, so that's the starting salary. Can you see that? 45,000 is the starting salary. And that is up and as I said, so we comped, we were significantly lower than districts our size within driving distance. You comp driving, because if someone wants to work in a small school, other small schools within the driving distance are our comps. And so we were significantly lower. So if we had a teacher new to the profession who was looking to do in a small school and there was openings at 3 districts within a half hour, we're much more competitive now. And we think with Tom's charm, we'll get them.
You're here.
Best socks in all the districts.
That's it.
That's right, we have socks.
Yes. Door socks. So I'll go back to the presentation. And which one?
So we actually looked at the starting salary schedules of
Page number?
Boston and some of the
Oh, want me to
other
refresh?
surrounding towns. We are higher. We are high. This new proposal is to be slightly higher than what we know about them from last year. We don't necessarily know what their
You
salary schedule
desperately wanted
is
me to do that.
because they could be
Desperately.
having a contract negotiation.
So more competitive doesn't mean anything.
There.
More competitive doesn't mean anything.
Well,
Ideally, it should mean that we're getting better quality teachers who have to perform to higher standards than the places that we're comparing them to.
And we're a celebrated school. We have great regard
For the
from people who rank schools, so I'm really proud of it.
I've never seen the industry, because it's a shortage of teachers, where teachers now have significant choice. I used to say, so I've got a few years of experience. I used to say that I wouldn't be able to be hired because where I am on the salary schedule, I could get a job. I'm still a certified math teacher. There was, not that I look every once in a while, Mr. Barry. But there are a significant number of jobs right now within a half hour from this place that would even hire someone who's as old and crotchety as me. If you did notice, we did add the page numbers for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, ask and you shall receive.
So everybody okay on the agreement? No. This is a special meeting if it fails. Questions about this? All this does is give the board opportunity and choice. It does not compel anything. It saves Superior Court costs if they decided to do it. It only gives them options. It doesn't require anything. Maintenance fund?
Question,
Yes.
question Articles 5 through 7. At the bottom, it says no amount to be raised for new taxation. What it neglects to tell you is that if you vote no, that amount will be used to reduce your taxes. And I think that should be noted at the bottom of every one of these articles that says no amount to be raised from new taxation.
Pretty sure we're legally required to use the wording that's there.
Then I'd leave that out.
We can't, we have to.
You can't, it seemed to me last year there was wording under the articles.
So the tax,
I feel like that's the actually, I've seen that as well.
And then
Whether-
tag it in so we confuse people.
Right.
But this doesn't tell you the fact that you can get the money returned if you don't vote for it.
So-
Maybe it'd be better to say,
Amy's looked at this before.
maybe leave the last sentence out.
So these warrant articles don't include the tax impact. For deliberative, it will be in there. So it will show the tax impact if it passes, which is 0, and it will show a negative tax impact if it doesn't pass.
Correct.
So
So
you'll see
why
it.
doesn't that
It,
tell us?
it will for deliberative.
Thank you.
And I think last
5
year,
through 7.
and I think last year you came up and you said we did it well.
Well, I maybe did, but you didn't do it well. Yeah, Bloom. Also, your succeeding articles don't all have that no amount to be raised. You'll see the terminology is different at the bottom of, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8, however many there are.
Everybody, I don't want to rush and check it, but everybody okay on this one? Yes, we hear you and deliberative and we can,
I see it on all.
Yeah, it's on all of them, Eileen.
Okay.
And it's, yeah.
questions about,
Just for the tallies of the board, recommending or not recommending, the tallies of the budget committee, recommend or not recommending, as well as the tax impact goes on after public hearing prior to deliberative. So it will be posted in the warrant at the end of this month, and it will be presented at deliberative. So that's the process that we followed every year.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I'm Joanne Kitchell, 13 North Main Street. I have a question about your year 30 water system upgrade. Could you tell me what that is? Because your water, no offense, is yucky. Yeah. I can't really drink it. Sorry.
daughter agrees.
So what are you paying so much?
Leave the truth in the water.
I mean, the water,
sure, we'll get specific information from Roger, what it is, we get it to you.
like, try to drink it. Try to go to a fountain and you'll be like, wow.
But in the last year, we did a bunch of replacements for parts of the water system. And I think this is the drilling a new well or some complete replacement.
I did ask that question after I went to the budget committee meeting, and there is a new system in that number, rather than they've cobbled together what they have
Yeah.
and made it as good as they can.
Cobbled together, yeah.
But have any of you drank it? Really?
Well, there's a lot of iron and manganese here. There's also, believe it or not, some arsenic. And there's some arsenic levels in here as well, so.
I know a lot of children bring a water bottle but that's an assumption, really. I mean, children should have drinkable water.
It is polar. what's, and so is the library.
I wouldn't bring that up.
So we'll get you more information on that. Any other questions about, the funding plan? Everybody okay? Questions about this? We already talked briefly about the special education fund and where we're going with it.
Yeah.
Everybody okay?
Mhm.
And it did have, and the language was there, but we'll make sure. And what? Yeah. And then health and dental.
I got just a quick question, Tom Driscoll, Sean Drive. Just want to make sure I understand why you're adding this and here actually is. This is if a teacher came in and then all of a sudden needed a family and you didn't have the money in the budget, right? That's what that's for, right?
So if we have, as you know, if there's a qualifying event, someone could go from a buyout to a
Right, it could
family.
be anything.
And that's a switch of 30,000 plus, and if we had two of those, we'd be in trouble in River City.
Understand.
Can I ask one question about your dental and health
Yes,
plan? Do you offer a stipend for people who don't take the insurance?
yes, that's the buyout.
What is the buyout?
We just changed, did we change it in negotiation?
I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
We can find out, because like, there's three of them in our brains, so we'll make sure we get the right.
Is it, anybody know the percentage of
Were you-
faculty that don't, or that do take the buyout?
There's two or three, so we take the buyout, not many. And I think the buyout's 1,000, 3,000, it's either 1,000, 1,500.
Yeah, there's three of them
Three.
in my head, so.
Had 1,500 in your head, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
1,500.
We'll find out for you.
2,000,
All right,
For next year. because we did change it.
Okay, so it was part of negotiation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Is that 2,000 in total?
So it's not
or
really an
2,000?
incentive. to do
actually,
that,
no, it's 2,000
right?
Yeah,
and we
You're not
have,
incentivizing it, it's just, it exists.
it's very hard to, once you put that number in, to change it, to incentivize it and ensure we're making money.
we have 10 staff.
Because if you raise it to like an incentive of 30,000, if you raise it to like a 20,000, that would do it. All the current people would get that 20, and we have to make sure we get so many people not take the 30. It's a very complicated formula to change it once you're up. So you're right, it's more of an honorarium and appreciating us a little bit. But it is not a true incentive because it's small compared to, and it's gone up, and the cost of health insurance gone up a lot more than the consent, the buyout. I'm with you,
So
it's complicated
Yeah,
stuff.
so it's 2,000 and there's 10 staff.
10 1.
Yeah.
It's good. Good question. Any other questions about health insurance? Are you okay? Technology, I think we talked a little bit about this. This is for the big stuff. Trying to build up this, this is all about stabilizing the tax rate. Avoid peaks and valleys in budgets, save over time, as opposed to put them all in one. Everybody okay? So I don't, we're okay. Post-employment benefit,
I have a question.
sure.
I know that we had one of those retirements that happened either this year or last year. And I know it's a pretty big, what is the payout? That, I know it depends on a lot of things, but for example, the last one or.
So we've seen payouts in all the way up to close to $60,000 in some of the 30s. So the way it works is you announce your retirement following the end of next year. So you put the incentive or the retirement honoraria in the budget. But as Andrew talked about, you don't get an opportunity in this budget to look at new to the profession. And so it's where the expense goes up, but you don't have the offsetting replacement for the staff. What this would do was allow you to save, and it wouldn't be such an impact on the budget. So again, so in a $6 million budget, one retirement could be 1% of the budget.
Yeah.
So we're trying to soften the blow.
I think this was a really good idea.
We have a few potential retirements
Yeah.
in the next couple of years,
Yeah, we do.
as in addition to the one that's announced. So this kind of just spreads it across 3 years instead of having to be bumped in 1 year.
Great idea.
And this with the raising of the early stages of the salary schedule goes hand in hand. We hope, as the board goal was to attract new to the profession, be more competitive at the time where we have retirees. We think that is one way to do the best we can to control costs a little bit. Are you okay? And that's it from Fenway.
Nice, one last
You
question.
can.
Your salary schedule, you have a longevity, sum given to someone who's been in the district 10 years and is at the top level of the salary scale. Is that correct?
That's correct.
How many of those do we currently have in going into next year?
We'll get that number for you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Wonderful people who gave up a night to come out. We appreciate it very much.
I look at that number as benefit, not a detractor, because it means how many top of their profession teachers we have.
And here you can say that. Say it with a straight face.
Oh, smile.
You smile, that's even better. Even better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Problem solving.
As soon as we get the answer.
It's a, I think it's chaos. Everybody thinks
There you
they're
go.
at something. The thing.
About time.
Making order out of chaos.
Yeah.
That's the thing I.
So about a third of the staff are receiving the longevity stipend.
Starting next year.
Eileen, about a third of the staff,
Pardon?
a third of the staff will be receiving the stipend, longevity stipend next year.
So 8.
Wow, and that's only teachers? Or it's not parents, it's not
Correct.
everybody else?
Not Tom either.
He hasn't been here 10 years.
Exactly, you got it.
Looking forward to it.
Well, when it's a, 1%, an extra 1% raise on top of the salary schedule, it's,
Okay, we're all set.
Any other questions before we wrap this up?
Charlie Baker, 5 Acres Way. On that post-employment benefits, is that a 1-year benefit or is it longer than that?
1 year. 1 year, one loan. Oh. You're okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, very much.
Close public hearing, yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion.
Second.
Call for
Sorry.
motion.
I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
Motion, second, all in favor? Okay, all right, thank you, everyone.
You still have a more meeting? Okay, just chat.
We need to do a rush real quick. I have to be All right. Yeah. And I was like, this long, and then I got your phone. All right, folks, we are gonna try and move on to our normal business, so we understand you wanna chat, but.
Say so, you don't have to go home,
Look at them. How big is one of them?
Go.
That's almost like the issue flash Valley Park. Yeah. That's not a bug. And that's it's not out there. It's really by the number of people.
Any other?
Oh,
More than Amherst, more than Sabine.
More than Amherst? It's been a couple of-
Really? Isn't that funny?
He's got.
And this is the smallest thing.
He's actually above station. He's actually at station.
They get scared of that, right? You got back.
Have like the.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the library thinking at the time.
Yeah.
And everybody got hit this all in one lump, so it's like 30%. more bill for that.
See ya.
All right.
You know what we didn't do?
Comment, hey, how are you? Happy New Year.
We didn't ask anybody here.
Yeah.
Ready for us. Okay, they put their hands out. That's good. Yeah, we didn't ask them. I forgot.
I forgot to.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They didn't have their hands up. Otherwise.
All right, so I'm gonna call, yeah, I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 7:23. So we'll start with, public input 1, 2. There's one public here.
I got the babysitter, I'm running it out.
All right, I love it.
I have no public input.
Okay, anything from anyone online, Steve? Doesn't look like it. All right, so we will move. So this, we will allow time to review input public hearing, complete the process of sending articles to deliberative session. So the first order of our business will be to vote on the warrant articles.
Right, so you have 2 votes. You can take 1 vote in mass if you would like to move all the articles as presented to the deliberative session. So that can be 1 vote, and then you go article by article, vote in favor of the article as presented.
So we can do either or.
So the tallies have to be single votes, but you can do en masse, so you need for the deliberate, sending it to the deliberate can be 1 vote for these 9,
Okay.
but everything else has to be individual.
Okay, I move to move all of the warrant articles to the deliberative session.
Second,
All in favor? All right, so then we move through each one,
Correct,
starting with the operating budget.
correct.
Okay,
Do we have to read out the whole warrant article?
You do not.
all right, so warrant article number 2, the operating budget. So we just move second
And I would recommend the same person for, you know,
So
to make it easy for
for
tonight.
a day and just do the same.
Okay, so I will ask for a motion to move, what is it,
Move
to
Article
approve?
2. Yeah.
Recommend the operating budget or warrant article 2.
As presented.
As presented.
make a motion.
And I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Oral and
All right.
today's good.
So next would be warrant article 3. I will accept a motion to recommend warrant article 3
Make a motion.
I'll second.
As presented.
as presented. All in favor? 4-0. All right, and then I will ask for a motion to recommend warrant article 4 as presented.
Make a motion.
And I will second.
All in favor? 4-0.
I don't know why I rose my hand.
All right, and then I will ask for a motion to recommend warrant article 5 as presented.
I will make that motion.
And I will second.
All in favor? 4-0. Okay, and then I will ask for a motion to recommend warrant article 6 as presented.
I will make a motion.
And I will second.
All in favor? 4-0, Danae. And then I will, what number am I on? I just lost
Seven.
track. 7, thank
Sorry,
you.
no,
Like I thought I was.
I'm not helping you. Yeah, I know this, I
All
apologize.
right, I will ask for a motion to recommend warrant article 7 as presented.
I'll make the motion.
And I will second.
All in favor? 4-0. All right, I will ask for a motion to recommend article 8 as presented.
Make the motion.
I will second.
All in favor? And then I will ask for a motion to recommend warrant article 9 as presented.
I will make the motion.
And I will second.
All in favor? All right,
Bueno.
awesome. All right, we will continue to move along. So the next on our agenda is the consent agenda. So we have draft minutes from last meeting, revenue reports. Anyone have anything they want to pull out? Can we just accept this en masse? We're good?
On the consent agenda, it's
Yep.
just those 2 things. What's the
Yep.
unanticipated revenue is positive, so okay,
Yep,
I was gonna accept those.
okay. So can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
I will second.
Favor? Great. All right, next on our agenda is reports received. So we have facilities reports, treasurer's report, enrollment data. Draft school year calendar for 25-26, And then the principal's reports. Anyone like to discuss?
So, yeah, let me
These?
just, can I speak to a couple real
Yeah.
quick? So the enrollment, you got a little uptick in January 1, 237, and I'm pleased that it's eerily connected to NASDAQ, so that's a good sign. NASDAQ usually takes a couple years to get going once you start using them. But it's working out, so it's helpful. The next thing I want to talk a little bit about calendar, we have draft calendar in there. We have the vacation days and the start and the end days. We have to work on a little bit of our early releases. We're trying to coordinate those with Amherst. But we're also trying to coordinate with surrounding towns of their early releases, things like the Y and the Boys and Girls Club and programming there. So we're still kind of working with some other places. I'm gonna have Steve talk a little bit about March 11th. We'll get a little bit of a dead day in there and what that means in public education, because you'll hear people refer to it.
So one of the things one of the things that we're doing with support of the MBEA, so this calendar is presented as if the contract passes. The 2 additional student days are in, we're reducing the early release days. Now, if the contract doesn't pass, we'll have to send something else to the community because we won't have the early release, we won't have the change. So as we talked about, there is 3 professional development days in MVE in Mount Vernon Village. One of those days by contract has to go at the end of the year. We're working with MVA to move it to the front of the year because we have a new literacy program and we want as much training as possible. MVA in the last 2 years has very collaboratively supported that move. We've done it for the last 2 years. But there is one less professional development day in Mount Vernon than there is in Amherst, for example. So typically, as you know, we do where we started professional development days on voting day, March 11th. So because we have 3 days, all of MV days are going in the front of the school to prepare for the literacy program and the new math program in 6th grade and make sure Tom has what he needs on the MTSS work that he's focused on. There isn't that other day during the school year. It's a 1-year thing because we're really front loading. So on voting day, we don't like to have school on voting day. So voting day will be a day without students and without professional development. So it's an empty day. So we come down, there's nothing going on in the school. Usually you have PD or you have kids. This is nothing. Now, the MVA contract also has a 1 closeout day, the day after school gets out. But we've added an early release on the last day of school, and we have 3. Those are the 4, 3 professional, 3 half days during the school year plus the last day of school. So Tom is working with MVEA to see if they want to move their closeout day to March 11th. And so Tom's going to think about what's best for the school and his standpoint. What is it better to have teachers for 6 hours on March 11th or the last day of school for planning? And Tom is working on that. So March 11th might be a move of a closeout day, or it might be no school, no PD.
Okay.
So if the slopes are still well, March, whatever, 12th, they can go skiing. So that's where we're at.
Okay.
And so Tom, it's really, we trust Tom and Tom will do what he thinks is best because it's really his leadership and what he needs to do to accomplish his goals, whether it's after the last day of school or voting day. And before we publish the final one, he'll have it all figured out.
Okay.
Cool beans?
And we don't have a November voting day this.
That is correct. Correct. And so parent teacher conference day though, I think we're having very similar, that first week in November people like. It seems to be about the right time, so that's gonna be very similar to what we usually do that on the next voting day, every 2 years. It's always, it seems a good day, no kids around and just some stuff. But so we're finalizing some things, but all goes well in the contract. We have 2 more school days. You increased by over 18 hours of school.
It's great.
It's pretty good.
It's really good.
Good, all right.
We like that.
Yep.
And then, today's a bonus. Tom came for public hearing, but it's a report night, for the principal. So if you have any questions based on the report, Tom's here, but you can hold him for next time too, like we normally do as well. So. Jess needs to go to work.
Yeah, sorry.
Just needs to go to work and everything's been great.
Yeah.
So good.
So
Anything you want to point out for principal's report, Tom, that you think should be highlighted? I
I
wanna
mean, I
skip over
feel
it
like,
'cause I have to-
we're
I
all.
know.
Just kidding, yeah.
I love to hear it.
Yeah, I can dig in a little more next month. We're in that point in the year right now, midway, coming up on midway, where we're tracking students' goals and growth and learning. As we get to the end of the month, and I'll report out on this again at the next meeting, we're using a lot of different measures to see where we are. So we just see where we are holistically with our goals, see where we are with individual goals and all that. So, we had a really good lead up to winter break. And as you can see, I tried to outline each of our focus priorities, goals, and give you guys just a little bit under each one of those. I feel like we're in a good place in all three focus areas. And we're excited about the new resources and literacy. That's been a big focus, a lot of work for teachers, very invested and good for kids. So things are going really well. It's a good place. It's a happy place. And we have something fun planned next week for the kids. They don't even know about it.
Love that. We'll keep it under wraps until.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
no, they
absolutely.
don't know. They
All
don't
the
know.
kids are watching this tomorrow. so
Yeah.
they'll have a hint.
I'm
Yeah.
sure they're watching right now.
Yeah.
Go to bed.
And we had Tom and Steve and, Liz Cannon, Heather, and myself, talked about master schedule. When we talk instructional time, it's not just snow days, it's not just assemblies, it's about how the rhythm of the day for students and teachers, and trying to make sure that our master schedule is aligned with where we want to put our energies and our goals. And so more work to come around that a little bit. And if anything is amended or changed or adjusted, we'll let you know. But we're always exploring to make sure that, we're putting kids in the right spots, asking them to do the right things, and the teachers have enough time to plan and collaboratively plan together. So good stuff around instructional time, and we're good there. So.
All right, so moving on to personnel.
If you saw board notes.
Yep.
We had a teacher rescind her request. That was helpful for this evening, and we're good there.
Okay, perfect.
And as if you remember, and the MVA is aware of the timing of that decision. So when Amy found out, Mike found out, and Amy found out, it required significant revisions to the DOE forms, to the budget presentations. And so when the dust settles after the contract vote, hopefully a very successful contract vote, we may re-engage on an MOU, bumping that date up just a little bit. Because it was significant. This is a very busy weekend to find out. I think it was on a Sunday, right? You found out Saturday, so.
To flow all that through is
Right.
chaotic.
Right,
I
it
do.
changes everything.
Yeah,
Changes
yeah.
every slide.
Yeah.
We respect people's decisions, but we also have to put something in place that's manageable for the budget, because we want to know it. So we're gonna keep you posted on it.
Okay. All right, committee updates. Anyone have anything they want to share? We have a policy committee meeting coming up. Our last one was canceled just because everyone had their public hearings coming up. There was a lot of extra work to get done, so we'll be doing that again soon. All right, superintendent updates, anything?
I don't have, really any other updates other than transportation, and we have a 4-chair meeting tomorrow to talk a little about annual reports, and I'm gonna take that opportunity to get some information to the 4 chairs. I'm awaiting some more language from Butler's Transportation, and about some changes and reorganizations that are happening there, and that we will feel that will help us in the short term and medium and long term. But more to come. Still just waiting there, but we are making some headway with that, and it's a good thing. It's a good. And like, as we talked about transportation all year, MV hasn't felt it the way the other 2 districts have felt it, because of the 3 bus routes and the drivers and the quality of the experience. So, but I'll keep you updated as we go.
Okay.
I saw your updates on the hacked power school.
Yes, yeah.
So Power School was notoriously insecure before this hack. I know how big of a disruptor it is to change information systems, but is it reasonable for the district to consider a different solution for the future, knowing that Power School is very likely to be hacked again?
It, we haven't got to that point as we're still waiting for more information. So I can, as we get more information, we'll probably have a conversation with what that could look like, Andrew.
Okay.
So it is a, you're right, it's a lift. It's, you know what I mean? And
A Power student a couple of years ago used their Power School login to hack in and see the school's database. Never mind this one. So it's just, it's a history. You don't want to stick with someone who's not secure with your kids' information.
so we're still waiting for more information. Brian has been pretty diligent. He's been on a couple of calls. And we have a point person that we are waiting with Primex for one avenue. And then we also have a point person. What's the name, like customer care person from Power School, you know what I mean? So that's gonna be reaching out to Brian around this. And so once we get more information, we'll keep you guys updated.
All right, next public input 2 of 2. Public,
Still nothing?
all right, anything? Do we have anyone? Oh, yeah, we do. Mr. Blake, any comments? I think that's what that says. All right. Nothing. So do we need a non-public tonight? All right, so,
A motion to close the meeting.
all right,
Second.
all right, all in favor? Beautiful.